Rate joins us from Washington. So, Juan, I guess the question is now, how will the U.S. respond to this type of quote-unquote simulated attack?
For the U.S. Navy, encounters like this don't begin with alarms or shouting. They begin quietly. Before we begin, if you enjoy real military stories explained in a clear, calm, and factual way, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps us bring you more stories like this. Now imagine this. On the open sea, far from any coastline, an aircraft carrier group moves through international waters. From above, it looks calm, almost serene. But beneath that calm is one of the most advanced military systems on Earth. Aircraft carriers aren't just ships. They are floating air bases. Each carrier moves with an escort of destroyers, cruisers, and submarines. Radar systems scan hundreds of miles in every direction. Every movement in the sky is tracked. Every signal analyzed. Every potential risk accounted for. On this particular day, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The carrier group was conducting routine operations, flight drills, patrols, and airspace monitoring. According to U.S. officials, the mission was taking place in international waters, where naval forces from many countries legally operate. Then, something changed. A radar operator noticed a signal appear on the screen. At first, it didn't raise concern. Aircraft move through international airspace all the time. But within moments, the speed and direction of the signal stood out. The object was moving fast. Very fast. As the data updated, the picture became clearer. Multiple aircraft, military, approaching the carrier group. Russian fighter jets. This wasn't unusual in itself. Russian and U.S. forces often operate in the same regions, especially in areas like the North Atlantic, the Baltic Sea, and near the Arctic. These interactions are usually distant and professional, but this time, the distance was closing. To understand why moments like this draw attention, you need to understand the rules of military aviation. There are unwritten but well-understood norms. Maintain safe distance. Avoid aggressive maneuvers. Signal intentions clearly. When these rules are followed, encounters remain calm. When they aren't, things can escalate quickly. According to U.S. military statements, the Russian jets were approaching at a lower altitude and closer range than expected. The approach wasn't immediately hostile, but it was close enough to demand attention. On the carrier, procedures shifted from routine to alert. Pilots were notified. Command staff monitored the situation closely. Every move was calculated. This wasn't panic. It was preparation. As the jets came into visual range, U.S. pilots could finally see them. Sleek silhouettes cutting through the sky. Russian fighter aircraft. Reportedly Su-series jets, known for speed and maneuverability. The jets didn't cross into restricted airspace, but they came close enough for pilots on both sides to see each other. These moments are tense, not because weapons are fired, but because decisions must be perfect. A single misjudgment, a wrong turn, or a misunderstood signal could turn a routine encounter into an international incident. Encounters like this are rarely accidental. Military experts believe such maneuvers are often about signaling rather than confrontation, a message without words. A way of saying, "We see you. We're watching. We're here too." For Russia, flying close to a U.S. Navy carrier sends a signal of presence and capability. For the United States, maintaining calm control sends a different message: discipline and readiness. Neither side wants escalation, but neither side wants to appear weak. As the Russian jets maintained their course, U.S. Navy aircraft were launched to escort and monitor them. Not to chase, not to threaten, to observe. Pilots followed strict engagement rules. No aggressive moves, no sudden changes in altitude. Every maneuver was deliberate. From the outside, it may look like a simple flyby. From the inside, it's one of the most focused moments a pilot can experience. Hands steady, eyes locked, every instrument monitored. The jets flew parallel paths for several moments. Long enough to be noticed, short enough to avoid escalation. Then, slowly, the Russian aircraft adjusted course. But the story wasn't over. Escalating tension, At this stage, both sides knew one thing clearly. This was no longer a distant encounter. The Russian jets hadn't turned away completely. Instead, they adjusted their flight path, not retreating, but repositioning. According to later reports, this is where the situation became more sensitive. The distance between the aircraft began to shrink. In military aviation, distance matters more than speed. When aircraft fly too close, even small air disturbances can cause instability. Pilots are trained for this, but training doesn't remove risk, it only manages it. And this time, the margin for error was getting thinner. U.S. officials later described the maneuvers as unsafe and unprofessional. Those words are chosen carefully. They don't mean hostile. They don't mean accidental. They mean unnecessary risk. One of the Russian jets reportedly crossed in front of a U.S. aircraft's flight path, forcing the American pilot to adjust speed and altitude. Not dramatically, but deliberately. To the average viewer, this might look minor. To a military pilot, it's a serious moment. These aircraft are traveling hundreds of miles per hour. Reaction windows are measured in seconds. Pilots rely on predictability, and when that predictability disappears, tension rises fast. As the Russian jets maintained their course, the distance between them and the U.S. Navy carrier group continued to shrink. This was no longer a routine observation. It had become a test, a delicate, tense test of discipline and readiness. The U.S. Navy pilots were now fully alert. Every radar screen, every instrument, every visual observation mattered. In moments like these, even small details can determine the difference between a safe encounter and an international incident. The Russian jets, reportedly Su-27 and Su-30 models, were flying in formation. Their speed and approach angles were calculated, precise, and deliberate. These were not accidental maneuvers. Every pilot, on both sides, knew that one wrong move could have serious consequences. Inside the U.S. cockpit, pilots adjusted constantly. They maintained formation, followed strict engagement protocols, and monitored each other. Their training emphasized one principle above all: avoid escalation. The tension was silent, but palpable. No aggressive actions were taken, but every second counted. A slight miscalculation, a sudden turn, a gust of wind, or a misjudged distance could have escalated the encounter instantly. Pilots relied on instinct, training, and the experience of countless hours in the air. Above the carrier decks, in the command centers, officers watched everything in real time. Radar feeds, satellite images, and radio communications were scrutinized. Decisions were measured. Every action was calculated to maintain calm control. Escalation was not an option. Diplomacy depended on restraint. Every move was logged, every distance recorded, and every communication saved for review. In these moments, professionalism is measured by calm, not speed or aggression. The command center coordinated with pilots, ensuring that the Russian aircraft were observed safely and that the carrier remained fully secure. Escort planes maintained a buffer zone, ensuring that no aircraft came dangerously close to critical positions. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's perspective tells the human story behind the data. There is no dramatic soundtrack, no cinematic exaggeration. There is only focus, the hum of the instruments, the radio chatter, the steady rhythm of breathing. Every movement matters. Hands are steady. Eyes are locked. Calculations are continuous. Adjustments are made in fractions of a second. Speed is altered slightly. Altitude is modified. Formation spacing is preserved. Each action communicates control and discipline without aggression. These pilots operate in an environment where mistakes can be fatal. But their training ensures that even in high tension, every maneuver is deliberate and safe. The closest approach. The Russian jets closed in within a distance described by U.S. officials as unsafe but not threatening. One aircraft reportedly crossed a U.S. plane's path, forcing a minor adjustment. No collision occurred. No weapons were deployed. From an outsider's perspective, it might have seemed routine, but for the crews, It was a carefully measured moment of tension. Speed, angle, and proximity were all factors that demanded attention. The smallest error could have led to disaster. Yet the pilots remained calm. They continued to record the encounter using onboard cameras and sensors, capturing every detail for analysis later. Evidence was prioritized over reaction. Professionalism prevailed over instinct. Strategic significance. These encounters are rarely about aggression. They are a form of signaling. By flying close, Russia demonstrates presence and capability. The U.S. Navy responds with restraint and control, reinforcing its operational standards. Neither side wants confrontation, but both want to assert competence and awareness. These moments send messages without words. They communicate discipline, capability, and readiness. The airspace becomes a stage for silent negotiation. After several minutes of high-tension maneuvering, the Russian jets began to alter course gradually. The distance increased. The U.S. Navy aircraft maintained observation, but did not pursue. The encounter returned to routine operations, the calm that comes after measured professionalism. No weapons were deployed. No international boundaries were breached. Yet, the experience left a mark. Every data point, every radar reading, every pilot's note would be studied later. Lessons were learned, procedures reviewed, and protocols reinforced. These moments are cataloged to ensure safety and maintain readiness for future operations. Defense analysts examined the incident closely. Some considered it a routine demonstration of capability. Others noted the risks involved in repeated close encounters. One observation stood out. Even when nothing happens, tension itself is a critical factor. Modern military operations are as much about patience, calculation, and control as they are about power. Every decision, every adjustment, every observation contributes to maintaining peace while operating at the edge of potential conflict. It's a delicate balance, dependent on human skill and discipline. While equipment, radar, and technology play a role, the human element remains central. Pilots make split-second decisions. Command officers interpret data and issue instructions. Crews on the carrier monitor countless systems simultaneously. Without this human vigilance, small errors could escalate quickly. Every participant understands the stakes. Every action is informed by training, experience, and a shared understanding of the consequences. The encounter between the U.S. Navy and Russian jets is a reminder that professional restraint, situational awareness, and human judgment are as critical to peace as any technical capability. As the Russian jets pulled away from the U.S. Navy carrier group, the tension gradually eased. The carrier resumed normal operations. Flight drills continued, and radar screens returned to routine scanning. But the events of those tense minutes were carefully documented, analyzed, and reviewed. For the crews involved, it was another day of executing their mission with discipline and precision. For military analysts and strategists, it was a case study in modern naval encounters, demonstrating how quickly tension can rise and how critical restraint is. Official review. Both nations issued carefully worded statements following the incident. The U.S. Navy emphasized that all operations had been conducted safely within international waters, and that the carrier group maintained full control throughout the encounter. The Russian Ministry of Defense described its patrol as routine, highlighting training exercises in international airspace. Neither side used dramatic language or accusations. Every word was selected to reflect professionalism, restraint, and operational transparency. These statements may seem calm on the surface, but they convey the careful balance maintained by both sides. Analyst perspective. Defense experts later analyzed flight paths, altitudes, and timing of maneuvers. Some characterized the encounter as a standard show of presence, while others highlighted the inherent risks in repeated close interactions. The common takeaway: these encounters demonstrate that modern military capability relies not only on technology or firepower, but also on human judgment, discipline, and procedural rigor. One analyst noted, operating at the edge of potential conflict requires constant attention, calm, decision-making, and the ability to maintain control under pressure. The incident serves as a reminder that professionalism, rather than aggression, often determines the outcome in sensitive military situations. human element. While radar systems, satellites, and instruments monitor the skies, it is the people who maintain safety. Pilots make instant decisions to adjust speed and trajectory. Command officers interpret real-time data and issue orders. Crew members monitor multiple systems to ensure operational readiness. Every participant plays a role in preventing accidents and maintaining peace. It is a combination of human skill, training, and awareness that ensures tension does not escalate into incident. The encounter between U.S. Navy aircraft and Russian jets illustrates that modern military operations are as much about restraint and observation as they are about strength and strategy. Strategic lessons. Though this specific encounter ended without incident, the lessons are significant. Distance matters. Even minor reductions in separation can increase risk. Documentation is critical. Every movement, communication, and adjustment is recorded for review. Human skill is paramount. Training, experience, and calm judgment prevent escalation. Professionalism communicates power. Control and discipline often speak louder than force. Each of these lessons informs future operations, both for the U.S. Navy and for other nations observing these interactions. Long-term implications. Incidents like this shape military protocol, training, and international strategy. Procedures are refined to ensure safe distances, effective communication, and proper escort tactics. Patrol patterns are evaluated, and future encounters are planned with these lessons in mind. On a global scale, such events offer insight into how superpowers navigate competition without direct conflict. Observers can see how restraint and professionalism maintain stability even when tension is high. The U.S. Navy versus Russian jets encounter was not a battle, nor an accident. It was a real-world demonstration of discipline, judgment, and professionalism under pressure. From the pilots in the cockpit to officers in command centers, every participant played a role in ensuring safety, maintaining control, and upholding operational standards. The skies returned to routine. The sea returned to calm. And yet, the encounter remains a vivid example of the delicate balance between power and restraint, between vigilance and peace. In modern military operations, it is not only the strength of the forces, but the skill, judgment, and discipline of the people operating them that prevent conflict and preserve stability. The story of this encounter reminds us that calm, professionalism, and careful decision-making are as critical to maintaining global security as any weapon or radar system.